Welcome, you furry felines, to this tutorial on the Zenox. We're going to be learning how to play the Zenox in Distant Worlds 2. Welcome to the tutorial series. Hope you've been enjoying it so far, and welcome to my channel. My name is DasTactic, if you don't know, and please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy the content. And before I get started, a special thank you to my Patreon supporters or anyone that supports the channel, whether it be through purchasing games, including this game, through the Nexus Game Store, or through buying merchandise. I've got different t-shirts, etc, etc. There's links in the description. Anyway, let's get into it. The Zenox are my least favourite faction so far in the game. I don't enjoy playing them, and I don't really know why. If you do enjoy playing them, please leave some comments about why you like them, just to help other people as they come in, because I feel like I'm going to do the Zenox a disservice with my I guess my approach with the way I'm going to present this, and I don't want that to be the case. I want to present these to try to find positive ways that people actually can enjoy each of the different factions. It's the only faction, as I say, that I don't particularly enjoy. I don't not enjoy it. I just I'll play any of the other factions above this one, just personally. Anyway. These felines, these are sort of like cats in space. So they're very cautious and will not likely enter into agreement with others. Any new treaties they form usually involve an extremely lengthy period of negotiation with a protracted review phase at every stage of the discussions. Zenox ensure that they are absolutely clear on every last detail of the agreement before finally approving it. These are essentially, so I'll just read the next little bit. So Zenox take a particular interest in recording and preserving galactic history. This is actually probably really the way that they actually operate. For them, historic knowledge is actually what's important for their overall being. That's sort of like their backstory, particularly when it comes to like tying in stories about the like what's happened in the galaxy in the past. The Zenox are the go-to faction for having stories linked together, and so you'll see that as we sort of start to have a look at the actual group itself. The premise of the race is actually fairly interesting, them being the global historians, and to tie in with that, they sort of like they employ spies, they employ they've actually got very high shielding on their ships, things like this. Not that improves what they do, but they're explorers, but in a probably in a higher way of trying not to exploit the galaxy for its for resources, but to more exploit it for knowledge. So this, Zenox take particular interest in recording and preserving galactic history. They seek out items of historical significance from all over the galaxy. And so they're also epic storytellers, etc., etc. So you get a bit of a flavour for them. So their aggression, they are neutral, and so they're sort of neither passive nor aggressive. They're just sort of in the middle. They're extremely careful. So they consider things very, very carefully before they act. Having said that, they can be difficult to have as neighbours because of this. They don't make friends easily, so it takes them a long time to feel comfortable before they actually sort of do enter into any sort of agreement. So if you do actually have them as neighbours, expect it to be a long process of trying to get various treaties with them. It does take a long time. Their dependability is 0, so again they may, like again, after consideration, may decide that it's not right for them to be in a treaty with you. So they won't honour their words too much. They're flighty, I guess, like cats. Their reproduction rate is +5, so it's a little bit lower than the average in the galaxy. Migration tendency is 0, so they're happy to just stay at home, basically. And the assimilation rate is -10. And so this is, like if we compare it to the Theotechans at +20, these are compliant. So they're a little bit more difficult to win over and assimilate, but not too bad. It's sort of just average. They like ice worlds, so ice tundra, frozen ice, and ice are the different types, and then the other types of continentals and deserts, etc., are negatives in through this other side. Now the bonuses that they get: their shield recharge rate is +10%. The ship's the shield's research is +15. Espionage goes up by +10, and counter-espionage goes up by +10. So these do spy to get information. That's sort of like what they do. They're not the spy faction in the game, but they're up there. Like they're sort of, they do actually have a propensity to actually get information through their spies. Before the DLC release, this was the main spy faction out of the initial seven factions, but they're not the spy faction in the game. So that sort of belongs to the Dayut, who have got... actually, we're not seeing the bonuses there, but they do actually. The Dayots do actually have like more sort of spy abilities than ultimately than the Zenox. So anyway, that's where we are there. We've got and Psyops as well, which is another of the spy abilities. So these actually do have like individual spy abilities are fairly high with the Zenox. So maybe they are up there with the Dayots. You know, like it could be. As I say, it's sort of one of those things where I just haven't played enough of them because I don't enjoy playing them as much as the other factions. Starting research, early beam weapons, missile weapons, ground combat, and early energy deflectors. Again, this is sort of like the early shields is what they sort of start with if you're starting with on pre-warp. The Zenox tech, they actually can get the Star Beam, the Megatron Z4 shields, which is probably their best equipment that they actually come with, crystal sensors, and galactic archives. And we'll have a look at what each of these are when we get into the actual game itself. The race victory conditions. This is what gives you, I guess, the most flavour. Now, the ruins are considered where the history comes from. So if you control ruins, you're controlling history, and so they need to control the most ruins in the galaxy. So that's their one of their victory conditions. Explore all the galaxy is another one of their conditions. So the exploration of the galaxy is important to them. Build the planetary missile defense at a colony, and that's a fairly easy thing to do, easy-ish, like if you're sort of going to be playing a long game. Lose the fewest ships and bases in the galaxy, and lose the fewest troops in the galaxy. So they sort of see themselves as being fairly xenophobic in that sort of sense, where they try to stay out of the actual fighting, but record it for history is sort of how the premise would then go. Their preferred governments are monarchy and technocracy, so we'll have a look at those when we get into the game. They do actually allow it to have republic, democracy, feudalism, monarchy, military dictatorship, and technocracy. So at this stage, at this point in time, with the nine factions that we currently have, including with the DLC, there's only two that have technocracy: the Zenox and the Actarians. And so they're the two that actually do have the ability to have a technocracy back in through this side. Okay, their infantry is average, very, very average, with what they have with their attack and defense. Their most liked races are the Quamino, which will be coming in a future DLC at time of recording. The Securans, who I really enjoy playing, actually, I'm hoping that they come soon, and the Ugnari. So they're the three most liked races, and then the ones that the most disliked. And again, it's not a hatred. It's not like a burning hatred like with the Boscarans, where their enemies are at -100. These guys have actually got a where is it? Zenox. Theirs are just a -50 and even a -40 there for the Naxilian. But the Dayut and the Boscara are, considered to be their enemy. You can imagine how hard it would be for a Dayut or a Boscara to end up, given the fact that they're so very, very cautious. There's never ever going to be any sort of interaction, really, even at just negative. The -50 that we see down through here, plus the caution of +40 just means there won't be. If you're playing as a Boscaran and you've got a Zenox neighbour, forget about doing treaties. It's just not going to happen, really, in that sort of sense. So anyway, that's the Zenox description. Let's get into the actual game itself. And so here we are at the ice tundra planet of Keratos 9, which is the homeworld of this particular one. Let's go into Empire, Government, and we'll compare this with the monarchy, because that was the other one that it wanted to choose between. Population growth for the technocracy is down, monarchy it's normal. They're both the same for counter-espionage, so they're both good with that one. All research with the technocracy goes up, which is very, very handy. Colony happiness, both negatives, but worse for the technocracy. The colony corruption reduction is actually better using the technocracy. They're more closed in than the monarchy. The monarchy, it is actually got more corruption. The mining rate is down with the because they're more interested in research and technology. Then we have a look at warfare. Essentially, looking all the way through these, is the monarchy is much more about warfare, whereas the it's just average there for the rest of it for the technocracy. We then have tourism income, where the monarchy has more of that. Ship maintenance savings, again, more sort of for warfare, and the facility maintenance savings, all sort of all on the edge there for the monarchy itself. Now we've got the typical leader terms. We've got 80 years. with a direct appointment for the technocracy, which does lead to some disruption. And the leader only comes from the scientists that are available. So the scientists are the leadership pool. Over through here, the typical leader term for a monarchy is 60 years, direct appointment only. It is a bit disruptive, not as bad as for the technocracy, and they can be appointed from anywhere in the empire. Okay, then we have what do we actually have as the start of the situation? We've got the exploration scanners and planetary exploration. Now, I did actually explain this a little bit, I think, when I did the Actarians. I'm going to be doing an actual video. I haven't done it yet, but there will be a video coming on how exploration does work. I do want to explain that because I find it quite cool. I wish the graphics were a little bit different the way it did it, just so you could see exactly what they're doing, but I will explain what that actually is. So I'm hopeful at some point that will then at least be able to then see exactly what's going on. But once you actually know it, you will remember how that one does work. By having both of these, it allows them to explore very, very quickly. And so it sounds boring, but this is actually fairly cool. It actually allows them to explore their local system extremely fast. So if you are starting on a pre-warp, this is actually something that shouldn't be sneezed at. It does give you a lot of benefit. Okay, then we've got from the monarchy, we've got the coordinated control. We've got crew systems. So these are all things to do with the crewing and the bridge of your ship. These are sort of like better versions of those. Now, the planetary palace and the actual pre-built planetary palace, I don't know where this is supposed to be in the game. I have put in a bug report, so I'll wait and see what actually happens. I don't know if that's there, so we won't try to look for that one. We did actually have a look at that one when we tried to look at that one up with the Teekans. We couldn't find it. Okay, so anyway, that's where we are with the actual government. Okay, so in the actual research now, we can sort of look at the specific things that the Zenox can actually get, which is like the multi-beam weapons, which gives them the star beams. And so these are a fairly good beam weapon. Beam weapons are good in the game, I've got to say. Like the Feline beam, which is directly above it in through this side, you can see a range of 1650, damage of 3.52 per second. If we have a look at the star beam as an example, it's got a range of 1100 and a damage of 5.49 per second. So a little bit better. Actually, it's a bit shorter range. Actually, that's the large. Let's look at the medium. The medium version 2 has got a 1200. So it's got a 1200. So it's a little bit more range, but it does less damage. So the star beam is a higher damage weapon back in through there as well. And so that's the so that's what we get with the star beam. Again, it's one of those things that isn't all that important. We go down to a few of the other things, though. They do actually have one piece of tech which is really, really cool, which is just down in here. I've got to find it. There it is. The Ultra Shield Recharging, which gives them the Megatron Z4 shield. What this one does is it gives them a shield strength of 336, and also it actually has a higher ability to sort of stop penetration of the shield, like it's a 10% penetration. And so if we have a look at the Megatron Z4 and compare that, remember 336 down to the ablative energy shield, this one's only got a 288 energy shield strength and a 15% chance, shield penetration chance of 15%. So there is a chance to sort of bypass the shields, and then there's a higher penetration ratio of what actually does come through the shields in there as well at 40% as opposed to 30% for the Megatron. The other thing with this one as well, the shield recharge rate of 2.2 per second, compare that to the ablative at 0.8. So it actually recharges incredibly quickly. Add that to the natural recharge rate of the Zenox anyway, and their shields are incredible. Okay, so that's actually one thing to consider when you actually are playing as a Zenox, that in one sense, you probably want to have more shields than you do armor, but the shields do take up twice the space of armor. But the fact of, like, if you can get this particular shield, the Megatron Z4 and so on and so forth, get the version 2, etc., you're going to end up being like very, very strong if you can have well shielded ships. Very hard to sort of break through. Like railguns will break through to a degree. So if you are fighting against the Zenox and they do actually have these shields, then employ railguns on your ships to sort of bypass their shielding. That's sort of how you'd sort of then get around the Zenox advantages. Now they also have two more things. They've got where is it? There is further down here. the crystal sensors down through this side. So these are improved sensors, and so we've got, for example, these ones have got like a scanning range of 3M, a scanning power of 150, and these are against other ships to have a look at what other ships are doing. They've got a trace scan power to see what's inside ships of 88, the trace scan range of 500,000, and a jump tracking of 20%. Now, it's not going to mean much unless we sort of compare it to something. So if we have a bit of a look at this one through here, it's got like the scan power is 100 versus 150, back and through there as well. The component ion defense, it does defend against ion damage at double, the standard short-range sensor array. The scanning range of this one here is only 1M to sort of scan for ships nearby. This one here can scan up to 3M, which is a fair distance out. So it will see things coming, not the same degree of like a long-range sensor or anything like that, where it's got like 40M, but it actually is still not too bad in terms of being able to identify things that are close by. The trace scan power, as I say, is to look inside the ship, like in Star Trek. You know, when they scan the enemy ship to sort of see, what's actually inside it. That's the trace scan power. This one here is 75 as opposed to 88, so not that much difference. But the actual range of sort of 500,000 as opposed to 125, so 4 times the scanning range, and then the jump tracking of 10%. This one has got a better chance, double the chance of actually figuring out where ships are actually jumping to. So again, it's all about knowledge, and so the crystal sensor is a very, very good sensor. So that is something very, very good for the Zenoxes. Okay, then they go from there out across, and they actually bypass everything and just go straight from there across to the advanced sensors. This is a long-range sensor array, so they can actually sort of go from there to there, which is actually interesting as well. They don't have to go through the long-range sensor in through that side. The other one that's, I think the last one that we've got to look at is actually way off. If we have a look at cargo, where's the cargo? It's around here somewhere. I think it's here, maybe it's above this. I'll get lost in here, there's so much that does go on. No, that's, maybe it's still up higher. No, then we're into the missiles. Actually, that would be cargo there, storage and transport. So yeah, storage and transport back in this side where we've got sort of like the docking bays and sort of getting more and more things. As we come to the back end of this, actually, yeah, there it is there. It sort of comes in off this cargo storage and through this side. At the very end of this, like, so it's end game stuff, is you do actually have this unique building, the Galactic Archives, which gives you a 10%, it's an empire-wide bonus of diplomacy of 10% and colony development of 10%. So it just enhances your colony development through learning history, essentially, is sort of what you have there with the Galactic Archives. You can only build one of them in the galaxy, and only the Zenox can build them. So that's sort of like a something that I don't think I'd ever even try to get that one, to be honest. It's sort of so far off in the far, far distant future with the actual research. It's probably just not worth it. Okay, let's have a look and see what they've got with their ships. So we can have a bit of a look to see where we are. So if we go across the basic military ships, these have only got like one large weapon on them. 3 defense though. So remember, the whole idea behind the Zenox is that shield recharge. So recharging your shields, and so they're going to have more defensive slots than offensive slots. So this is the difference between these ships and the other ships that we've seen. Like, we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen any other escorts looking at all the different factions that have ended up with 3 defense. And so this is actually where this initial escort starts off that way. The improved escorts, again, 3 and 3 with the defenses. Only 2 weapon slots there for the heavy escort, only 1 there for the patrol escort. So probably, again, the heavy escort might be the way to go, just to try to get some point defense. Having the extra shield slot, though, you're going to struggle to squeeze things in if you have 2 shields on board. The the system patrol ships back and through here, this is your frigate. Again, 4 defensive slots. Most other ones have either got 2 or 3, so we're ahead there again as well. 3 different types of weapon slots in through there. The destroyers, 6 defense slots, and we've got the 2 and 2 back in through there. Actually, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm thinking, actually, I should play this again. This looks pretty damn interesting. Multi-role starships, which is our light cruisers, 8 defensive slots. So you can imagine if you're recharging at about 3 times the speed of anyone else with more power in your shields. Very hard to kill a Zenox ship if they can get to that sort of state. So if you can find ways to actually make it work with the space on board the actual ships themselves, very, very strong. We go down to the capital ships, have a bit of a look down through here, 12 defences. So we're getting a lot less weaponry, but a lot more defence slots using the Zenoxes. Mega capital ships back up through there. We've got 8 and 8 with 14, and then the colossal construction at the very, very bottom here. We didn't actually look at this one, but this is where you get to your dreadnoughts and your massive star bases and stuff like this. So lots and lots of defences on those as well. So that's where we are. Now I'm guessing that also I haven't really been looking at the difference between the different space stations. 4 defences looks fairly standard, to be honest. Actually, it's large mining stations, again, 4 defences. I didn't really have a good look at those for the other factions. I've never really taken much notice of that, but I'm now interested to see if the Zenox can actually outperform with shields even in that capacity as well, because that would give them a lot of survivability. I mean, even the fact of having a mining station with just that Megatron shield on board for a Zenox group that's recharging so fast, that's going to delay the pirates something chronic. So it's an interesting mix. Actually, look when you do consider that. Okay, let's go and have a look at the actual ships themselves. So we'll start with the basic pre-warp ship, which is this escort. So we'll just go and manually create this one through here. So we do actually, it's a large slot in the front here. We do actually have the capacity for 1 large weapon. So I guess it's not going to be relying on point defense if it's got the shielding. So we've got the different shielding slots in through this side. By the way, when you see the little eye symbol, this is an external bay, and so these are often where it wants the shielding on the external, and then somewhere on the internal would be the actual armor. But for for one of these sorts of ships, for example, if I just go to latest per category and then bay type and category, you could then just go straight down, and actually the Megatron Z shield there is actually smaller than the other shields around it. So you look at the Corvidians at 20, 20, 20. These are actually a little bit smaller as well overall. So 2 of those on board. One of the you do want to actually sort of get some sort of armor, so just get enhanced armor at this stage. So that's already chewing up a bit of space on the ship. You've only got the 1 weapon slot in there as well. So I mean, what would you be wanting to use in here? I mean, it's one of these things. I won't design the ship as such, but you've got a lot of choices here. Like, do you put in, like, well, there's your star beam there. I mean, I guess you just use what they've got. There's a 45, throw the big star beam weapon on there, and you've got, like, a very, very powerful ship. And you've still got to then just deck it out with everything else inside it. But that's actually the start of something really, really quite strong, if you can do it. Sorry about that, I just got called away, so I'm back again now. So this is, anyway, we've gone through, I guess, the basic approach for the pre-warp escort. You're not going to have any point defense, essentially. You're going to be relying on your shields, and unfortunately at the start, the shields that you're going to have are going to be pretty weak. So you are going to start off weak in the pre-warp, simply because you've only got the 1 weapon up through here. So pretty much no, you're going to have essentially no point defense, which won't matter much in the pre-warp, but it will bite at some point. Okay, let's go to the next craft. We just go across, add new. We'll go now to the patrol escort. This is going to be the same sort of problem, to be honest. It's just going to be a little bit faster. Again, we've got a large weapon slot in the front there. Can't shoot in behind. Still got the the all-important 3 slots in through there. Really, until you get your Megatron shields, you're going to be struggling a little bit as a Zenox, I think. Just cancel that one, and we go to the heavy escort. Now we do actually have something a bit different. We have a medium slot at the back. This could be used for point defense, but nothing fires behind the ship. And so again, this is going to be one of these situations where you've got the 3 slots in here for defense. You do actually have a capacity to actually add in a point defense weapon. So this is actually probably the best option you've got, is to go point defense up into here with something a bit more powerful in the front, whatever that might be. Up to you. We'll just cancel that one. And if we then go across, add new, we'll have a look at the frigate. We should now start, by the time you get to the frigates, and so you probably end up going escort frigate, and then eventually coming back at some point to go for the heavy escort, I would guess. But the frigate will be a better design. And so this has got 1 large, 2 small. And so we have a bit of a look at this one through here. We've now got 4 slots down through this side. So again, if you can get to the Megatron shields, that may give you a pretty good option. You now do actually have rear-facing weapons and front-facing weapons there for your point defense. Your point defense is actually fairly good on this ship. Plus, you've got a large slot at the front there. So reasonable ship, the frigate. So the frigate is actually not too bad, and that's at level 1, I think it is. Level 1. So level 0 is the first column, and then level 1 is where the frigates actually come. All right, let's have a bit of a look and see what we get with the destroyer. Add new destroyer. You can see how different. Like if you've been looking at the other episodes around the other sorts of factions, every faction ship does play very, very differently. Just with the loadouts. I can't stress that enough. The game really does personalize each individual class of ship for each actual faction, which is very exciting in the game. Okay, so the destroyer back through here. I've got to say though, this overall design for the Zenox is overall fairly weak. So in terms of its actual combat power, it is much more about a defense. Look at this, six slots in there for their. This is only the destroyer, and you then start to sort of get your hangar bay there at the front there as well. Again, the loadout for this is a bit weird. You've got like a couple of large slots, front and back, and then you've got 2 little sort of slots in there which would be suitable for point defense. But yeah, I guess you can sort of fire directly to the front. You don't have any rear-facing defenses with the point defense, so again, it's a bit of a strange situation, this ship. So it's probably not all that useful, to be honest, just because of the actual layout of the ship. If we just go across, let's have a look at the light cruiser. So we'll just have a quick look at this one. This will give us a bit of a feel for what we can expect to sort of see. 2 big slots in the front there. We've got another couple of almost not quite broadside, but they do actually fire to the front. So this one does actually allow fairly good attack. But by the time you get to light cruiser, you're a long way into the game, and so this is a mid-game sort of approach. The point defense as well, all points backwards. All the small stuff, all points back. Very strange design. There's nothing in point defense that points to the front. This would be a hard, like unless you used one of these at the top here, maybe one of these large for point defense as well. It's just a weird sort of, again, the Zenox are a weird sort of faction with the way that their ships actually operate with the different fields of fire. Anyway, that is the fields of fire for the Zenox. Hope that's been helpful. So I'll leave this episode here. Anyway, it's as I say, it's not my favourite faction. In fact, it's my least favourite faction. But I must say, just thinking about those shields has got me thinking I wouldn't mind having another go and just sort of see if I can do something with them to make them a little bit more fun to play. Anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. If you do like this series, please consider liking and subscribing. It certainly does help. And I will catch you in the next episode where we start to look at some of the DLCs. See some of the factions from the DLC.